welcome to today's podcast. So, Amber,
Yes.
how are things?
Yeah, good.
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 I think you're going to like today.
Oh gosh. You always say that and I never know what's coming.
I do. Well, this, for
We should have renamed this the blindsiding podcast.
well, funny you should talk about
Blindside Amber podcast.
because feisty is actually a big part of today's topic.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Hit me.
Okay, today's topic I'm going to use is the words positive disruption. So those disruptors in our world who are disruptive. So to be clear, they're going to change things and move things. But I think sometimes disruptors get a negative rap.
Yeah.
Because those who like order, militaries in general, but governments and other such agencies typically don't like disruption because it causes chaos.
Yeah.
But positive disruption, which might be another word for feisty. I'm not saying all feistiness is positive disruption, but certainly positive disruption is feisty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit about the benefits, the drawbacks, and the space around positive disruption and feistiness that have brought you to where you are right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have mentioned it before on this podcast. The history of me, I think feisty's just been a part of who I naturally was born to be. Obviously, I coined the term on myself at some point, but I think I look back to even my childhood, and I was just always so freaking curious. And that curiosity was, I would say, buoyed by confidence. I'm an only child raised by two entrepreneurs that really bolstered my confidence and made me feel as though asking those questions wasn't a threat, it was an opportunity. Now, I would say both of my parents, created opportunity for me to be feisty. I never felt marginalized, in conversation about business, even. I'm from a small child. I was an only child and they were entrepreneurs. So we talked business like from really early on because I was curious. I would ask questions of like, what are we doing this for? And what's that for? And I would also observe a lot of interactions with them and business people. And then I would make comments later privately where I would say, hey, did you notice so-and-so says this when they say that? And my parents would be like, no, we never noticed that. And then I would mimic the idiom that I had witnessed. And my parents would literally roar with laughter. But I think mostly because I was so on it that they didn't see those things in others until it was reflected to them the way I would point it out. And then they would see it. And they would go, oh my goodness, you're right. That person always does do that. And it was kind of like, boy, I should have started playing poker as a small child because I think my feistiness also is keenly attached to my like intuitive, I don't know, viewpoint, POV, point of view. Like I have this, I don't know. I mean, I can be at a conference, maybe I'm a speaker, maybe I'm the keynote, and, just in the times when I'm not on stage getting all the attention, in the times when I'm sitting having a meal with someone or someone, a bunch of people are talking in a little group, I see things in others. I hear tone, I see, and have quite an interesting intuitiveness to, oh, I feel like they're coming at this from this angle. So I think as a coach, a lot of times when I'm coaching someone, they're just like, whoa, like, where did that come from? And I'm like, oh, this is an observation from my curiosity about you. I notice you've said this 3 times in the last 10 minutes. And even though you are saying it 3 times and each time telling me that you don't care about it, you've said it 3 times. So my intuition is telling me that you do care about it, but you don't want to care about it, or you think caring about it says something about you. And I'll say that and they'll be like, "Oh." And it's not a criticism, it's my curiosity. So I think that feistiness piece is about curiousness. And I would say also I am an insatiable optimist. That doesn't mean that I don't see risk and that I'm not afraid. I do. I feel afraid. I feel all the natural emotions. But I think overarchingly, I go to the positive pretty quickly. And I've learned over the years that staying for too long in a fear-based mentality or thought cycle doesn't actually help me or anyone around me. So I allow the fear to be felt, and then I get pretty constructive with the fear. I get feisty with the fear. And I'm like, okay, fear. I'm going to get curious about you. And my curiosity spins on, why am I afraid? What am I afraid of? What's going on that's making me so fearful? And then based on that, I look for opportunity. Arguably, I farm opportunity in all of it. Maybe that's also why, as becoming a project management professional, I really wanted to focus my attention in change management because I I do like change. And there's a lot of fear in change.
Mm.
And change is always at a human level felt as a loss experience. But for some reason, that and my feisty curiosity seem to put me in a position where the change comes and it's bad. And I'm shocked and I'm frustrated and I'm even depressed about it. But my curiosity and my feistiness kicks in somewhere around that low point. And it starts to ask questions like, okay, this sucks, but what can we do? Where's the opportunity? How can we look at this in a certain way? And I think that also helps me continue to be mobile um, in my thinking towards any situation. I tend to want to mobilize.
Mhm.
I'm okay to talk. Like I'm a great talker. But after a while, particularly in a project meeting, and for those of you who have worked on teams with me, you know this, I am all about a good project meeting. But if we talk for too much and we're not starting to do, if we don't mobilize those words, I'm out. Like I can't. I'm not ethereal for very long. I can pontificate like, okay, way up in the skies, but then I'm like, okay, but what are we going to do about it?
Right.
And so that feistiness comes right down into brass tacks. Let's put on our boots. Let's get out. Let's start hiking. Let's start doing. Let's start mobilizing the opportunities that we see.
So you brought up something really, really awesome that I really appreciated right there, which was around how feisty and how disruptors can show up.
Mm.
Because again, when we're in a room, um, those who are in agreement
Mhm.
are in agreement. We don't have, don't need a lot of work for those who are agreeing, but certainly we've seen this a lot where people are, the emperor's not got new clothes on, and everybody's going, no, they look great. It's amazing.
Yeah, but why are they agreeing? That's
Okay,
my feistiness.
that's right. That's right. So,
First question I
okay,
ask.
well, okay. Why don't we forget my question? Why are they agreeing?
Why are they agreeing? Why are they agreeing, Martin? Why, in moments where you have large, even groups of people, why are they all agreeing? And it's not that they can't actually genuinely all agree.
Yeah.
It's that I'm suspicious of it.
Right.
And my curiosity is that they're not agreeing for all the same reasons. And that's okay. It's like I said, it's not about that's good, that's bad. I'm just so curious. And the project manager in me who's thinking about the interest holder engagement, I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's great you're all on the same side, but you're all my interest holders. And I'm going to plan unique strategies to engage with all of you, which means I want to know exactly how you define agree.
Yeah.
Because if I talk to you one on one or one on two, and you guys tell me this is what agreement means to you, I can guarantee you when I go to the next interest holder, their terms of agreement are going to be slightly different, if not radically different. And that feistiness in me makes me go, okay, do we have consensus or do we have groupthink?
Well,
And they're different.
yeah, you're very right. They are very different. And so, a very quick answer to your question about why do they agree, I would just simply come back to this: challenge, stress, and uncertainty. So Rich Diviney talks a lot about challenge, stress, and
Yeah.
uncertainty and how we respond to those.
Mhm.
I think when it comes to agreement, when people are faced with challenge, stress, and uncertainty, the certain can look good.
Oh, gosh.
And so for people to be like, oh, we're all agreeing on that. Let's just be certain about that and go, okay, I'd rather take the negativeness of whatever comes with that and be certain than have to live in uncertainty. Because the disruptor loves one thing, and you said this. You said they love change.
I love it.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a disruptor too. Give me some change. I genuinely, and I can only speak for me, genuinely believe status quo is a myth.
Yeah.
That from like
It's like
the rotation of the planet to how many people are born on the planet every day. It's a myth to think that anything is staying the same for any length of time.
Well, it's exactly like how I'm addressing the word normal right now. I don't know how to relate to normal. And the term normal in our English language is used so prolifically, and it's applied in so many different environments. And I, in my feistiness, would argue that it doesn't exist. That normal is the abnormal is normal. And so I'm like, then does the word normal work for us anymore? Because what is normal? Or the other example, best. Everybody in business talks about, oh, the best practice. Oh, best. That's the best way. I'm like, no way it's the best way. It's the best way today, maybe. But when you say this is the best way, that's a finite decision you've made. You've used a word that ends the discussion. Why? Because it's not, this is a better way. It's the best. We've hit the top of the mountain. We're done. To which I would say every time in my career that I have ever said, this is the best I'm ever going to be, I look back sometimes just the next day and go, wow, did I get that wrong? Because there's so much yet that's coming that we don't know about. And the uncertainty of that makes a lot of other people very afraid. And I think for me in the feistiness, I have the same fear, but that fear is something that I guess I've invited that fear in and I've made it my friend. And I work to figure out how I can use that fear as a motivator to find or farm out the opportunities. And so for me, I don't say best anymore. I say wise because I have wisdom today. And the wisdom I have today is literally the most wisdom I've ever had. This is the most wise I've ever been right now in this minute. But in the next minute, potentially, I'll have more. And so on and so on and so on. And wisdom can grow.
Oh, wisdom can always grow. Absolutely. And I think best, much like certainty, as we just said a minute ago, it can also be a myth.
Yeah.
And I think it gives you that myth-like space that, and I'm going to come back to this. If something's best, it must be at peak performance. It is, there's nowhere up on the mountain from best. But if you are open to the suggestion that you can grow a set of wings and fly, then that's not the best. And disruptors have no problem going, yeah, that's best for this. But look, you can have the best 8-track player. That's an old system for listening to music for our younger viewers.
I remember 8 tracks.
You can have the best 8-track, but someone went, no, that's, who cares? Mm-hmm. Grab a pair of wings and fly past that. Mm-hmm. And disruptors genuinely are comfortable with that, where those who are using best typically want to stay with their 8-track player.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And I think, ultimately the question you're asking, what I think you're asking is just like, what does how does the disruptor do this in a constructive way? Because quite frankly too, and I had a conversation recently with a professional and they were saying that they didn't really understand the feisty term and that was a negative connotation for them. And they were kind of uncomfortable that they thought it was negative. They were telling me, sorry, but I thought this was a bad thing. To which I said, I'm comfortable with that. I'm okay that you thought feisty was a bad thing. To which they were like, why would you want anyone to be uncomfortable with how they know you? And I'm like, but that's kind of the space I embody. And it just is what it is. And not everyone is meant to be a disruptor. And that also is not good, bad, or anything. It just is. So, my feistiness just is. Now, I wish that I had the ability to lay hold of it and embrace it and leverage it longer ago than I did.
So that's a beautiful question. Because one of the questions I had around feisty was if feisty is a persona or a shirt you put on, when do you remember first putting that shirt on, uncomfortably or comfortably?
Yeah, I mean, I think from very early childhood. Now I didn't coin it as feisty, and the history of feisty is it was the name of my first spice blend that I made when I was a cooking instructor and a chef. And that part of my career, I used feisty to describe the seasoning because it was like a spicy kind of, but not overly hot, but a peppery seasoning mix to like make things taste better. And it was curious and it pushed the boundaries a little bit on the flavor, but it was feisty. So it was a perfect word. And then, fast forward to I haven't had my cooking school for a while. I've been working in project management. I've completely re-engineered my career. And I'm thinking to myself, who am I when it comes to how I approach project work? And it was funny because I was just like, well, I'm that person. I'm that agitator. I'm that questioner. I'm the one who is so comfortable with uncertainty, change, and conflict that I don't run from them. I don't want to incite them, although I do recognize that I have gifts and skills to do that. But I think I just realized that I'm that feisty person. So then I drew that word out and went, okay, that's what I'll call myself. To try, quite honestly, to forewarn people. My given name is Amber, and so people will say, "Oh, how do I remember your name?" And I always just say, "Just proceed with caution." Right? Because the amber light of the stoplight, what do? You either gun it through the intersection when it goes to yellow, amber, or you slam on the brakes. Either way, you're exhibiting some kind of emotional reaction to that yellow light. That's how you should proceed with Amber.
And for
And
those who know her, proceed with caution.
yeah.
Definitely an advantageous strategy.
Well, and I think, but the caution, like this person who was saying to me, they felt badly that they thought feisty was a bad thing. I said, that's okay. I'm not for everybody. When I was younger, I thought I had to be someone who everyone would resonate with, who everyone would connect with. Why? Because I wanted to please people, because that is how I attached my value in the workspace. Boy, what a load of hooey that is. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And now that I am aware that actually, no, my feistiness is unique. It's certainly a superpower that I have. And because I'm not embarrassed of it, it also gives me opportunity to use it. And then in the spaces where I use it and it's too much, I also have the opportunity to be corrected, to take that feedback, and in those moments, to not defend myself, to simply embody myself in those moments. I can and I do make genuine apology to people that I have spoken too quickly to, that I have reacted in a boisterous or feisty way, and that has hurt or offended them. Gosh, I want to be called out in those moments because it helps me. It helps me be a better person. It helps me understand that what I really don't ever want to do is hurt people intentionally. And yet we're all capable of it. So how do we do it less? Well, it needs to be brought to our attention when we do it, and we need to take responsibility for that. So the feistiness for me, or the people who, are positive disruptors, we have I would say a cobbled road to walk. It's not an even path. And for those of us who have this within us, we have to work on our emotional intelligence. We have to be able to recognize, hey, like I walked into that room, I said nothing, and somehow I intimidated the hell out of everybody. And because I had that effect, I need to take responsibility for the environment that created for others. Does it mean they got it right? Does it mean that all those people that feel intimidated by me should feel intimidated? Not necessarily. But if I've projected that or made people feel that way, then I need to be able to take responsibility for that. For some, it may mean that I need to apologize. For others, it may simply mean that they need to get to know me better. And for others, it may mean that I am not for them and they are not for me, and we can mutually respect that and then walk away. So, I think disruptors have this role to play. But if we don't have disruptors, we can go about life assuming that things are better than they are. If there's one thing that being a disruptor can bring, it is that we can shake the truth out. I've been in a I've been in a long-term committed partnership, intimate partnership. We've been together 33 years. And my level of disruptor continues to push against this individual's beautiful take on how the world should just be easy and let's have fun. And in reality, I'm way too intense. They're not intense enough. And for 33 years, we've been in this dance of trying to figure out how to still dance together, not making each other comfortable all the time, and recognizing that our discomfort is an opportunity to grow. So the disruptiveness is important, but also the fact that I can just get over myself sometimes and just have some fun is really important to have too. And you have to have that balance. Um, and I think for my partner, this is someone who also doesn't really want to deal with the truth, because the truth, let's face it, sometimes it's not so nice. And I am always pushing for the truth, which means some of those tough conversations that he would avoid, we end up having because I push for it. And you know what? That makes us both better. And then the tough conversations that I chronically want to have, he will push for. Can we just not, Amber? And I can just go, you're right. We can just not, like, for this moment. So it's that kind of thing. And I think in organizations and in projects, this is it. I'm not suggesting we build intimate relationships with everyone we work with. I'm simply saying that same applied connection, mutual respect, value for one another, and recognition of our unique approach means disruptors need to feel they have a way to, shed light on some truths that maybe other people don't want to see in the project. And also recognize that there are times where they just need to be quiet. I just need to be silenced sometimes, Martin.
Well, you brought up something really good, and I really was appreciating the dichotomy of this, which is if you're on a team with disruptors, so if you're not the disruptor yourself, but if you're on a team with disruptors,
yeah,
that there's a twofold strategy there, which is the first space around listening. Okay, what is it the disruptor is bringing to the table that I may or may not be seeing? But I think that there's also a space in that to simply say, um, okay, we've heard, but now that's enough. You 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 said, can we just not? Can we just not? We heard what you had to say.
Can
we just not on that particular right now?
Yeah.
So maybe it's important, but not urgent, and we can put it in the important category, but not the urgent category. While we deal with which is urgent.
Well, and you helped me with that, because I remember one time you just said the phrase, time will take care of things. And I remember at the time going, what the hell does that mean? And then realizing as time went by and things got taken care of by time itself, that's what you meant. That sometimes your silence and your relegating yourself and your feistiness also means things can settle, situations can change, and survival can still happen in the midst of you not making it happen.
Yeah, and I think about one of the things that you were very feisty about for some time, which was who's going to listen to this podcast? Why should we? You know how many podcasts there are? Hey, maybe a little bit of disruption. Can we just not and put some microphones and see what happens?
Yeah.
And what happened, and it just for everybody, the second we put this down for the very first one, we realized almost all of our conversations needed a microphone. And we'd be in the middle of the restaurant and we'd be like, oh man, we got no mics.
We stop talking now because we're like, oh, there's no mics. We shouldn't talk.
This topic. Pause. We'll unpause that one when we have mics in front of us.
Oh gosh. Anyway, yeah.
But that's even the nature of this conversation is a disruptive.
I was going to say positive and disruptive. Yeah.
We're actually disruptive even in our own style of disruptiveness.
You're right. You're right.
And there's a lot of fun creativity. So
yeah, and I think have value and appreciate disruptors have a role. And not all of us are disruptors. And that's exactly the way it should be. So nobody needs to gain any expertise in becoming a disruptor. I think a lot of times the people are there. But it's about giving them that space and then helping the whole group take that disruption and farm out the opportunity because it's there.
That's right. Because being feisty has its time and its space.
It does. It has its
And
benefits.
thank you for today's time and space. And I look forward to our next time and space full of disruption.
Thank you, Martin.